NBA Today, hosted by Malika Andrews, live from Los Angeles.
Coming up on NBA Today, the Celtics are skidding. How Boston is dealing with Marcus Smart calling out their two stars. Big perk on the big drama in Beantown. And has Dame time stalled? Lillard's in the midst of one of his worst slumps in his career. How can one of the NBA's best get back on track? Plus, injuries are wreaking havoc to the Bucks and Sixers. When will some of the East's biggest stars be back on the court? NBA Today starts right now. Welcome to NBA Today. I'm Malika Andrews, joined by Chiney Ogwumike, Kendrick Perkins, and Zach Lowe. Ramona Shelburne will be joining us shortly. But Perk, how are you feeling about the Celtics? But you know what? Actually, before I ask how you're feeling about the Celtics, let's look at the highlight of last night, because I know you're going to have a lot to say, Big Perk. I know you're going to have a lot to say. The Bulls were visiting the Celtics. The Celtics led by 19 with 2:28 to go in the third.
Dun, dun, dun.
They entered Monday 81-3, Chiney, over the last 5 seasons when leading by 19 plus, but then this happened. It was early in the fourth quarter, turned it over. Bulls get out in transition. Alley-oop to Derrick Jones Jr. Bulls down by just 7 now. So then, this next play is out of a Celtics timeout. Dennis Schroeder blocked. Bulls back out in transition here. Alex Caruso. Zach LaVine gets nifty through traffic, drives, lays it in, plus the foul. The free throw would be good. The Bulls are pumped. So then the Bulls out trail by 2 now. Not anymore. Bulls charge all the way back, take the lead on a 29-9 run since Boston led by 19. So 5:20 to go here. You know that's good. Bulls lead by 2. So now we have under 4 minutes to go. Boston down 4. Jason Tatum, he drives. Just can't quite make it through the Bulls defense. Tatum was 4 of 14 in the second half. So 1:20 left. Bulls by 9. DeRozan, bang. Season high 37 points for DeRozan. The Celtics look completely shocked. Here's Marcus Smart.
I mean, it's only so much I could do without the ball in my hands. I just sit and stand in the corner. When we run in plays for our best players, every team knows that. They do a good job of shutting that down. And, we can't allow that. I mean, I would just like to play basketball. Every team knows we're trying to go to Jason and Jaylen. And every team is programmed and studied to stop Jason and Jaylen. And, I think everybody's scouting report is make those guys try to pass the ball. They don't want to pass the ball, and that's something that they're going to learn. They're still learning. We're proud of the progress they're making, but they're going to have to make another step and find ways to not only create for themselves but create for others on this team, to open up the court for them later down in the game where they don't have to always take those tough shots.
So here's a deeper look at that fourth quarter where the Celtics managed to score just 11 points while allowing the Bulls to score 39 on 13 of 16 from the field. Boston missed all of its 8 three-pointers and collected just 3 rebounds, all on the offensive end. So there's a whole bunch to unpack here. I promised I would start with you, Perk. You played 8 seasons in Boston. You won a championship there. So what do you think of Marcus Smart's comments on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
It's bad. It's really bad. And this is why. Marcus Smart is considered one of the leaders in that locker room, if not the vocal leader in that locker room. And you have a group of young guys that are on the bench that are younger than your franchise guys who, by the way, are young, all right? So you have Peyton Pritchard, you have Robert Williams, Aaron Nesmith. It's a whole list of guys that you have. And you go out there and you call out your franchise guys in the public along with your head coach because you're basically saying that he needs to critique his offensive playbook and saying that they need to run plays through others. It's not a good look for the team. It's not a good look for the organization. And what could happen is that guys could start looking at Marcus Smart a little differently, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And as a leader, you cannot do that. Look, in the fourth quarter, when you're on the team and you're a role player, the ball goes in the hands of the people who get paid the big bucks. And on the Celtic team, that is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Now, speaking of Jaylen Brown, where's my clip? Roll the clip. Speaking of Jaylen Brown, he took over in the second quarter. before halftime.
Okay.
The Bulls had control of the game until Jaylen Brown decided to take over because he was taking a back seat. Listen, this kid is so special. And then when you go back and look in the fourth quarter, he had, I believe, 2 shot attempts. Two. And this goes back to even when they won their overtime game, the last game on the road. Jaylen Brown was cooking and they isolated him. So look, he's getting trapped. I get it. He's making the right play. But at the end of the day, the lead was blown at the end of the third quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter, when the others couldn't make it happen. So for Marcus Smart, a guy that's a defensive player who, by the way, DeMar DeRozan had 37 points on 75% shooting last night. Nobody was checking him. Goes to the media and call out your franchise guys. That's just not it.
Well, and we've seen this happen before. To me, when I was watching it, it didn't necessarily look entirely disrespectful, but I see what you're saying, Perk. I see what you're saying there. What was interesting to me is that Jaylen Brown has only had 1 assist in the fourth quarter in all of his games this season. So I was thinking, okay, I get the frustration, but Chiney, the Bulls closed the game on a 53-20 run. So what's the bigger deal, the Celtics' offensive struggles or poor defense down the stretch?
And since Big Perk has been talking about the fourth quarter in your question, I think it works hand in hand. When you miss that many shots and then you are creating a shorter turnaround for you to set up your defense, it's all problems. And I don't want to just tell you. How about I show you with this breakdown? Okay, so the interesting part here is, when you think about the Boston Celtics, Marcus Smart called out their offense, but really they should be talking about their defense. 27th in defensive rating. So give me my tape, producer Kwaku. Check out this defense. The issues here. Josh Richardson overreacts from the pick and roll. You're never supposed to give up middle, and the big man does so. Easy money right there. Another defensive play late in the game, pick and roll, but this time you gamble. You're never supposed to gamble, especially when you have a shooter making his way up, and guess what? This was a huge shot by Ayo, you know what I mean? Creating a 2-on-1 where last minute you have a late closeout. Huge shot for the Bulls, and then the biggest shot of them all. Jason Tatum got caught sleeping a little bit because watch what Lonzo does. He runs, reads it, and this is where we had the unselfish extra pass that leads to DeMar DeRozan, his season high, 37 after creating a 2-on-1 from Tatum sort of sleeping in that moment. So overall, everyone's going to make a lot of hullabaloo over, the offensive issues after Marcus Smart made his comments. But the reality is those defensive lapses are really what cost you the game.
Yeah, that's interesting. Jason Tatum shooting 25% in the fourth quarter, which is worst in the NBA. But good defense leads to good offense leads to good defense.
Yep.
The Celtics are just 2-5, not the way they were looking to start the season. Zach Lowe, what is the biggest problem affecting Boston to start the season?
Golf clap for Chiney because she nailed it. For this team with these players to be 27th in defense, they're fouling the hell out of everyone. They can't get a rebound. It's embarrassing. This should be a top 10 defense. That's the biggest problem on the floor. But what Marcus Smart said last night, listen, he knew exactly what he was saying. He might have been polite about it, but he knew what he was saying. And he's both right and a little bit wrong. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum aren't good enough as passers quite yet. They've improved, but they're kind of average for their position. Tatum is a little better, but he's sometimes a pass in case of emergency guy. I'm doubled. I can't go anywhere. I got to pass. But Marcus Smart, when he gets more of the offense given to him, and I love Marcus Smart. He's the heart and soul of that team. He's prone to some pretty crazy shot selection. If you go back and watch the bubble in particular, you could see a lot of guys on the Celtics on the court being like, dude, what are you doing? Like that 20-foot pull-up off the dribble? What are you doing? And bottom line is, there's just been something off in the water in Boston for years. They go to the conference finals in 2018, one of 3 conference finals in recent years, by the way, without Kyrie, without Hayward. Those guys come back, and the team just implodes. And everyone blames it on, well, there's this Kyrie versus the young guys, and there was all this tension. Well, guess what? Kyrie's been gone for a while now, a long time, and the tension hasn't gone away. Something is just, Danny Ainge retires. Brad Stevens says, I don't want to coach anymore. Send me upstairs. Free agents are leaving left and right. Gordon Hayward would be a Celtic right now if he really, truly wanted to play with this core. He didn't want it. Now, Charlotte offered more money, so Boston has an out. So we didn't match that offer. The bottom line is something just isn't right in the water, and they got to fix it because they got a lot of talent on this team, and they have time, in part because even if they wanted to make a trade, I'm not sure they could do anything. They're not trading one of the Jays, and Smart can't be traded till January 25th because of his extension.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
but Hey, listen, here's the thing, right? It's a lot that went wrong with Marcus Smart interview. And Shanae, you know this, as a player, it's certain things that you come up, go to the interview room and you cannot say. And that's the reason that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown didn't do their post-game interview, because they didn't want to have to answer the question about what Marcus Smart has said.
Yeah,
That's
that cannot be condoned. It does not matter what happens on the court. It has been collectively bargained that it is your duty, it is part of your job, good and bad, to speak to reporters. Please continue, Kendrick.
No. But what I'm saying is not to not speak to reporters, but it's certain things that you're not supposed to say. And here's the thing: what's going on in Boston? When you have a group of young guys, and I say young because people don't realize is that I've been in two different situations. One with Boston, guys were trying to compete for a title and won the championship, when you had guys like Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce on the back end of their career, where they had accomplished everything individual. And so all they needed was to win the title. Then I went to Oklahoma City, where you had Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and James Harden, guys who were at the beginning of their career, who all needed to accomplish everything that they needed to accomplish individually, where they wasn't more so worried about championship. Now you see like a James Harden and Kevin Durant reuniting on the back end of their career, because at first James Harden had to go let it all out. He had to go win the MVPs, make all-star games and things to that nature. And so when you look at the Celtic roster, they have a young squad. The Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are not even 25 years of age yet. And so when you have a young squad like that, you got to make sure that you surround them with the right veterans and right mentorship that they could have in that locker room, because the whole squad is young. That's the problem. They don't have a real leader.
Well, they're going to get a little bit of help, even if it's not maybe from a leader.